Okay, so you want to own a portable toilet business, buy a bunch of plastic boxes, drop them at construction sites, and charge rent every month. The box doesn't move. It doesn't need power. It doesn't need a driver. It just stands there in the mud while somebody pays you for the privilege of it standing there. Here's the thing. It works. There's a 31-year-old in California named Daniel Tom who did exactly this. His company, Bay Area Sanitation, brought in $3.1 million in 2024. Last year, it did $4.3 million. He runs it at about 22% net margin, and he describes it as a low-tech, AI-proof business because no algorithm on Earth is going to empty that tank for you. So the business is real. The $4 million is real. The question this video answers is a different one. If it's that simple, why does almost everyone who tries it end up nowhere near $4 million? Why do most of them quit inside 2 years, holding a yard full of plastic and a truck payment they can't cover? The answer has almost nothing to do with the toilets. And once you see where the money actually sits in this business, you'll never look at a construction site the same way again. Start with the part everyone gets wrong. The asset you're renting out is almost an afterthought. A standard portable toilet unit costs between $700 and $2,500. Buy-in volume and it drops toward the bottom of that range. Operators in the field put it around $800 a unit. So a starter fleet of 10 to 20 units runs you $15,000 to $30,000. That's the cheapest entry ticket of any business we've looked at. Now, the truck. You cannot run this without a vacuum truck, a rig with a suction system and a waste tank that lets you empty and clean the units on site. Used, $45,000 to $80,000. New, $75,000 to $150,000. Operators running real fleets put a properly equipped one at $160,000. Sit with the shape of that for a second. The thing you rent out costs $800. The thing that services it costs 200 times more. In most rental businesses, the asset is the expensive part, and the logistics are the overhead. This one is inverted. You're not really buying an inventory of toilets. You're buying a truck, and the toilets are what justify owning it. Then come the things that don't show up in anybody's plan. You need a yard, at minimum a quarter-acre of light industrial lot with water access and drainage, big enough to hold 50 to 100 units, your truck, and a washdown area. You need a state liquid waste hauler permit because you're transporting human waste, and that's regulated at the state level. You need general liability, commercial auto, and this one is not optional, a pollution liability rider. A standard auto policy will not cover a waste spill cleanup, and that single gap has ended businesses in an afternoon. $2,000 to $5,000 for your first year of coverage. And you need a treatment plant that will legally take what you collect and charge you every time you show up. Realistic small launch. $60,000 to $120,000. Operators who've done it will tell you the honest number to do it properly is closer to $250,000. None of that is the interesting part, though. The interesting part is what you're actually selling, because it isn't a toilet. A standard unit on a construction site rents for $125 to $225 a month. That price is not for the plastic. Nobody is paying $200 a month to borrow a fiberglass box. They're paying for the visit. Every single week, someone drives out there, extracts the waste with a vacuum wand, adds a deodorizer that breaks down what comes next, scrubs and disinfects every interior surface, and restocks the paper. That's the product. The rental is just the wrapper it comes in. This changes everything about how you think about the business. You are not a rental company. You are a subscription service with a physical delivery mechanism. Your revenue recurs by design, not by luck. Your customer isn't making a purchasing decision each month, they're just not canceling. And that distinction is the difference between hunting for work and having work arrive on a schedule. There's a second way money comes in, and it's louder. Events. A weekend rents at $150 to $300 per unit, and some operators charge $239 to $399 per event. Look at that against construction. A single weekend can pay nearly what a construction site pays for an entire month. So, events are better, right? Ask the man running $4 million a year. He'll tell you he deliberately prioritizes long-term rentals because that's guaranteed recurring revenue. And once you look at what an event actually costs you, you understand why. Delivery, setup, a mid-event service call, teardown, pickup, all compressed into 48 hours, all of it seasonal, all of it needing bodies and truck hours at exactly the moment every other operator needs them too. Events spike your summer and starve your winter. Construction pays the loan in February. The event money is louder. The construction money is the one that's still there when nobody's throwing a festival. And now the piece almost nobody knows about, the one that makes this business genuinely strange. Because your third revenue driver isn't a service you sell. It's a law. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration requires construction sites to provide one toilet for every 15 workers. Not a recommendation. Not best practice. A federal requirement enforced with citations. Think about what that means for your sales process. Your customer isn't buying because you convinced them. They're buying because a general contractor cannot legally put workers on that site without you. The demand doesn't come from marketing. It comes from a rule book written in Washington. Construction alone drives over half of all portable toilet demand in this country. And construction cannot start without a row of your boxes in the corner of the lot. You are not selling to a customer. You are selling to a compliance requirement that happens to have a checkbook. Which brings us to why this doesn't automatically make everyone rich. The biggest cost in this business isn't the toilets, and it isn't the truck note. It's people. Operators running real fleets put payroll at roughly 30% of total revenue, the single largest line item. Here's why that's structural and not fixable. Every unit you rent has to be physically visited by a human being every 7 days. Forever. There's no version where the box services itself. So your revenue scales with unit count and your labor scales right alongside it, in lockstep, permanently. This is the part that quietly destroys the fantasy. 1,000 toilets is not 1,000 streams of passive income. It's 1,000 appointments a week that somebody has to drive to, which is exactly why the fourth number, the one nobody puts on a spreadsheet, decides whether you make money or not, how close together your units are. 40 units clustered across 3 sites in one neighborhood. 1 truck, 1 loop, 1 dump run, a driver home by 4. 40 units scattered across a county, 1 here, 2 there, 35 minutes between stops. Same revenue, double the fuel, double the hours, half the margin. Identical business on paper. Completely different bank account. The industry nets 20 to 25% when it's run well. Bay Area sanitation runs about 22. That number doesn't come from charging more than anyone else. It comes from how tight the map is. Look at how Tom actually built the $4 million version, because every choice is a lesson. He prioritizes long-term rentals over the flashier event work, recurring revenue over spike revenue. He runs 19 employees and knows exactly what they cost him. He treats the weekly service with something close to obsession. Full waste extraction, deodorizer that breaks down future waste, disinfecting every surface, restocking. In a business where the product is fundamentally an unpleasant experience, the operator who makes it least unpleasant keeps the contract that took 6 months to win. And in December, he leased a bigger yard, specifically for more trucks. Not more toilets, more trucks. Because he understands the truck fleet, not the unit count, is the actual constraint on growth. He takes home about $120,000 in salary, a number he says could be much higher if he weren't shoving nearly everything back into the business. His target is 5,000 units and $10 million a year within 5 years. Now run the same setup through someone who doesn't see any of that. He buys the same boxes. He chases events because the per-day rate looks better in a spreadsheet. So his revenue is a roller coaster that dies every November. He accepts every job that calls regardless of distance, so his driver spends half the shift on the road between one-off stops, while payroll runs the whole time. He cuts corners on the weekly service because who's really checking? Until a superintendent walks past a filthy unit on a Monday morning and cancels a 6-month contract before lunch. He skipped the pollution rider to save $800, and then there's a spill. He has units out. He's busy. He's going nowhere. Nothing separated those two men except where they put their boxes, what they promised, and how seriously they took the part everyone else finds beneath them. And here's what makes this market genuinely unusual right now. Portable toilet rental in the United States is a $3.3 billion industry, and no single company controls more than 5% of it. Read that again. In a decade where private capital has rolled up every dental practice, every HVAC shop, every car wash, and every veterinary clinic in America, the porta-potty market is still almost entirely fragmented local operators. There's no national brand. There's no Amazon of portable sanitation. The consolidation wave that has swallowed every other unglamorous service business simply hasn't finished arriving here, which cuts both ways. It means there's room. A fragmented market is a market where a disciplined local operator can still take share. And it means the operators building dense, contract-heavy routes right now are precisely the ones the roll-ups will come shopping for in 5 years. Checkbook open. So, does it work? In the version that works, your units sit on long-term construction contracts that renew without a conversation. Your routes are tight enough that one truck handles dozens of units in a single loop. Your service is good enough that contractors call you first and never price shop. OSHA guarantees your customers legally require what you sell before a single worker clocks in. And a piece of plastic that cost you $800 generates $160 to $225 a month every month for years, until it's paid for itself 10 times over and is still going. In the version that doesn't, you're leaning on seasonal events and your winter is a graveyard. Your map is scattered, and 30% of your revenue evaporates into payroll for drivers stuck in traffic. A skipped service costs you a contract that took a season to land. Your one truck goes down, and your entire fleet sits unserviced while the note comes due anyway. Same plastic, same truck. The gap between those two outcomes is measured in decisions nobody makes on camera. So here's what you actually need to understand before you buy a single unit. The people who get rich here didn't find a clever way to rent plastic. They understood something before they spent $1. You are not in the toilet business. You are in the subscription business, and OSHA is your sales team. The box is just where the subscription gets delivered.